Welcome to this video on sourcing culturally relevant materials, focusing on reflecting identities and expanding worldviews in curriculum selection. Our learning goals include, by the end of this lesson, you will be able to apply the Mirrors and Windows framework to curriculum selection, integrate African American, Indigenous, and Hispanic resources that highlight joy and innovation, evaluate materials for Eurocentric bias and replace them with diverse primary sources, utilize low-stress assessments like portfolios and teachbacks to measure true understanding. Key vocabulary includes cultural relevancy. Use culturally relevant materials to make learning meaningful. Inclusion, inclusive curriculum. Students see themselves represented and feel valued. Intersectionality, overlapping social identities shape unique experiences. Primary source, primary sources, original documents/artifacts from the time period studied, letters, diaries, recordings. The mirrors and windows, the concept. Curriculum selection should function as both mirrors and windows for your student. Mirrors, books and resources that reflect your child's own identity and culture. They say, "I exist, and my story matters." Windows, resources that offer a view into lives and experiences different from their own. They build empathy and global understanding. Why representation matters. Identity validation. When students see themselves in literature, their self-esteem and engagement levels rise significantly. Breaking stereotypes. Avoid materials that only show diverse cultures through the lens of struggle or trauma. Seek stories of joy, innovation, and everyday life. Global citizenship. Windows into other cultures prepare students to navigate a connected world with respect and curiosity. Evaluating for bias. The Eurocentric lens. Traditional curricula often prioritize European history and perspectives, marginalizing others. What to look for. Heroes. Are leaders and innovators diverse? Perspective. Whose viewpoint shapes the narrative? Accuracy. Are cultural depictions nuanced or stereotypical? The fix. Substitute biased textbooks with primary sources and works by scholars from the cultures being studied. True or false, a window resource helps a student see their own culture and identity reflected in the learning material. The statement is false. That is a mirror. A window resource allows students to see into and understand lives and experiences different from their own. When sourcing African American literature, look beyond the struggle of civil rights. Include stories of innovation, art, and leadership. Resources can cover literature from authors like Langston Hughes and Toni Morrison, inventors, and stories celebrating joy and cultural traditions. To achieve historical depth, use primary sources like letters and speeches to hear authentic voices. Include modern leadership to show history is still being made. Focus on relatable biographical details, like a subject's childhood and interests. When selecting African American historical resources, what perspective should you prioritize to avoid a limited narrative? 1. Focusing solely on civil rights struggles. 2. Highlighting joy, innovation, and leadership. 3. Only using textbooks written before 1980 or 4. Avoiding topics related to slavery entirely. The answer is number 2. Highlighting joy, innovation, and leadership. This ensures a rich, complete view of African American culture beyond historical struggles. For Indigenous perspectives, local context is key. Indigenous history is not monolithic. Focus on the First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples specific to your region in Canada. Recommended resources. First Nations version, FNV, New Testament, a translation that reflects Indigenous storytelling cadence and cultural nuances. Community archives. Seek out historical records created by the community, not just about them. Oral histories. Respect the tradition of passing knowledge through stories. Integrating Indigenous land acknowledgement. Move beyond a scripted statement. Learn the traditional names of the land you live on and their history. Science and nature. Incorporate Indigenous ecological knowledge, TEEK, regarding local plants, animals, and seasons alongside Western science. Contemporary voices. Include modern Indigenous authors, artists, and leaders to show thriving, living cultures. Fill in the blank. When studying Indigenous history, it is important to use ____ and records created by the community itself, rather than just external observations. Word bank options are primary sources, fiction, textbooks, maps. correct answer is primary sources. When studying Indigenous history, it is important to use primary sources and records created by the community itself, rather than external observations. Hispanic and Latino heritage is a diverse tapestry. Hispanic and Latino encompass many different nations, races, and histories. Avoid treating them as a single block. Bilingual resources. Using bilingual texts validates the language skills of Spanish-speaking students and introduces others to new linguistic patterns. Geography connection. Connect culture to geography by studying the distinct regions of Mexico, Central America, South America, and the Caribbean. Using bilingual resources validates the language skills of Spanish-speaking students and introduces others to new linguistic patterns. Connect culture to geography by studying the distinct regions of the Americas and the Caribbean. Beyond borders. Highlight how Hispanic and Latino cultures have shaped North American society through food, music, architecture, and politics. Historical figures. Study figures like Cesar Chavez, labor rights, Ellen Ochoa, astronaut, or Sonia Sotomayor, Supreme Court Justice. Cultural celebrations. Learn about traditions like Dia de los Muertos or Carnival to understand cultural values around family and ancestors. Cultural integration. Why is it beneficial to use bilingual texts when studying Hispanic heritage? 1. To make the lesson harder for students. 2. To validate language skills and introduce new patterns. 3. Because English books are not available. 4. To focus only on grammar rules. Answer is 2. To validate language skills and introduce new patterns. Let's recap low-stress assessment. Assessment should be a mirror for reflection, not judgment, showing where students are so you know where to guide them next. Reducing anxiety is key. High-stakes testing creates stress that blocks learning. Low-stress methods, like the living portfolio, provide accurate data without fear. A living portfolio is a dynamic collection of work samples, photos, and recordings. It documents student growth over time rather than performance on a single day, showing the whole child and their evolving interests. The teach-back method, how it works. Ask your student to teach a concept back to you. They become the teacher. You become the student. Why it works. To teach something, you must understand it deeply. This reveals mastery better than any multiple-choice test. The vibe. Keep it playful. Let them use a whiteboard, make a poster, or even lecture you with a stuffed animal audience. Quick quiz. Question 1. What is the main benefit of a living portfolio? Question 2. How does the teach-back method prove mastery of a topic? Question 3. What is the mirrors and windows concept used for? Answer 1. It documents growth over time rather than performance on a single day. Answer 2. Because you must understand a concept deeply to explain it clearly to someone else. Answer 3. Reflecting student identity and exposing them to diverse worldviews. True or false, and why? Standardized testing is the best way to measure a student's understanding of culturally diverse material. Why is that? A. True, because tests provide objective data. B. False, because portfolios and teachbacks allow students to demonstrate understanding in their own voice without anxiety. Answer is A. True, because tests provide objective data. Let's discuss. Think about the books or media you consumed as a student. Did you see mirrors, yourself, or mostly windows? How did that impact your sense of belonging in the classroom? You might have said, I mostly saw windows, which made me curious but sometimes felt like an outsider. I saw mirrors often, which made me feel confident and understood. I didn't see much diversity at all, which made me think the world was smaller than it is. What's the right order? Put the steps of integrating a new cultural topic in the correct order. Introduce the material using mirrors and windows. Assess understanding with a teachback or portfolio entry. Evaluate current materials for bias or gaps. Select diverse primary sources and literature. Answer is 1. Evaluate current materials for bias or gaps. 2. Select diverse primary sources and literature. 3. Introduce the material using mirrors and windows. 4. Assess understanding with a teach-back or portfolio entry. Actionable tip: library visit and book challenge. Plan a trip to your local library or bookstore. Find 3 picture books by African American, Indigenous, or Hispanic authors. Read them together and ask your child to identify a mirror or window moment in each story. Summary: bringing it all together. Source materials as mirrors and windows to validate identity and build empathy. Moving forward, replace biased texts with diverse primary sources and use low-stress assessments to honor every student's potential and perspective. Your toolkit: you now have rapid-fire fixes for scheduling, assessment, and cultural relevance.